Hi, this is Serena Sun with Breaking Taboo, founder and director of mental health organization on mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Welcome to our audio video podcast. Today I am sitting here with Daniel Jones, who is a YouTube and Instagram influencer, amongst many other things. Also just found out he is in a band called the Straight Jacket Legends. Is that what it's called? Did I get it right?
Legends.
Yes,
Yeah,
the Straight
yeah,
Jacket
you did,
Legends.
yeah.
And he has a, YouTube channel called the Aspie World. So, how are you doing today, Daniel?
Doing all right, thank you. Yeah, I've been in meetings all day because I've been doing like a virtual event today. So I've been in meetings all day. So, but
Oh,
I'm okay.
wow.
I'm all good.
What
Yeah.
kind of virtual event?
So over here in the UK, there's a YouTube or like an online video conference called Summer in the City, and it's normally in London, and they do one in Birmingham now in the winter. But yeah, I was talking on a panels last year. So this year, obviously because of coronavirus, they didn't have any actual physical event, but they did have this like backstage thing because obviously a lot of the networking happens backstage. So I just booked meetings with like Lego and stuff like that, just so I could
Oh, that's
get those networking
awesome.
feels out.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Good for you. That is so cool. Is
thank
this
you.
for the Aspie World?
It is indeed, yeah.
Okay, cool. So tell us, what is the Aspie World? What do you talk about there? And what does the name mean for everyone that doesn't know?
Cool. So the name, the Aspie World, it was just do you know what? I didn't expect the channel to get as big as it is, or to become a business slash empire, which I'm growing right now. So it was just something that I threw together. And Aspie is short for Asperger's, and Asperger's obviously is an old kind of nomenclature for a diagnosis of autism. So um, that's where the Aspie comes from. But the Aspie World was just something that fun I just threw together. It's weird, isn't it? But basically, what I do and what the Aspie World is we are an online educational entertainment beacon for or an outlet for information on autism and ADHD, dyslexia, mental health. You name it. We do everything. And so I'm also a published author. I have some books out in like 3 languages. We've won awards now with the Aspie World, which is pretty cool. And I literally just make video content on all platforms you can think of. Every social media platform, I'm on it. I've got it. We're putting content on it daily.
That's awesome. And you basically just talk about these types of mental health issues like Asperger's and ADHD. And is that because, do you have Asperger's?
So yeah, so I have clinical diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, ADHD, OCD, and dyslexia, among other things like sensory processing disorder, depression, stress, anxiety, alopecia, eczema. So it's like there's a bunch of different things that come with it because it's all comorbid. And so I started off talking about these conditions from my point of view, just putting my thoughts down on video, but then it's grown into me creating hacks and tips and tricks and helping people. And so now I've even started. I've made a course. I did like a beta launch on a course called Coping Secrets, and that was really cool. So the feedback was great. So we're going to go full launch soon. So I'm just taking kind of like people to put on my list for the pre-launch. But yeah, it's crazy how it's moved from just being something, an outlet for me to talk about a condition, to being somewhere where like I'm helping people now and creating these like courses to actually empower people, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so important, like I always say, to humanize these topics. And I think people really look for that to feel less alone. There are a lot of people out there who has Asperger's syndrome. And I did notice that you say Asperger's and I say Asperger's. And that's something that I often wonder, which
Yeah.
one is it? In fact, I've looked it up on YouTube before, and I went on one of those YouTube videos in pronunciation and it said Asperger's. However, you're the one that has it. You call it Asperger's. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I say Asperger's because I'm British. So that's how we say it.
That's
But
just how you
actually, you're
say it.
absolutely right.
Oh,
It's Asperger. Yeah, but Asperger is because the guy, it comes from a gentleman called Hans Asperger, who was doing information and research on the behavior of children in the 1940s. So Hans Asperger was a German physician, kind of like psychologist, and of course he's German, so it was like Hans Asperger. So it is Asperger, but
okay.
because obviously I'm British, and everything's kind of like it's got a bit of different accent, so I say Asperger, and just by default because that's what I go to. But it's funny actually. So Asperger's syndrome has been removed from the naming convention, and it's now replaced with just ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. So and you're right when
Sorry,
you
could
you
you
said
say that
a lot of
again? Autism,
yeah, autism
ASD.
spectrum disorder. Yeah.
Okay, right.
But it's funny because because 1 in 100 people in the United Kingdom are diagnosed with autism, and 1 in 60 in the United States. So there's a lot of people, with the condition.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm familiar with autism to a certain extent. I did do music therapy. I did think about becoming a music therapist for a while, actually, back when I was studying psychology. And music therapy primarily deals with autism, because it's been shown that music therapy, it works extremely well with like cue recognition and emotions and especially in children with autism, whereas, other traditional types of therapy really doesn't work. So that's pretty fascinating.
Mhm.
Also, with the elderly as well, of course, music therapy can have just an amazing effect on memory recognition and cognition and all sorts of things.
Awesome.
But yeah, but as for you, I mean, Asperger's is a uh, I guess I would describe it as a lighter form of autism. I mean, do you think that's a correct way?
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
how would you
difficult
describe it?
so basically, so people yeah, so people used to say high functioning, low functioning. So, and then they split them into, like, classic autism, Asperger's syndrome, and so all of this was quite ambiguous. So now it's very simple. They base it on the amount of support one needs. So they say you have low support needs or high support needs. So Asperger's syndrome technically requires lower support needs. So I don't need help with brushing my teeth or getting dressed in the morning, but some children do, or some
Mhm.
other adults on the spectrum do. But I do have issues with, executive function, or issues with, remembering to eat, or remembering to drink water, or, getting to somewhere on time, navigating around, understanding what people are saying to me in social conversations and stuff. So it's funny, because a lot of people, we used to say high functioning, low functioning, but a lot of autistic people don't like those I don't know what you want to call them, functioning labels, because they feel almost like it puts them in like a different, like a box, like a subcategory box. I actually don't have any issues with, it's just people trying to relate to the information. It's hard to discuss, but of course it is a sensitive topic, and we do have to remember people's sensitivity to the subject. But that's how you'd say it. So technically Asperger's syndrome, or my type of autism, is a lower support needs condition.
Right. And you, I mean, to use that label, you seem like an extremely high functioning person. I mean, you obviously, you're in a band, you're doing all this stuff, and you're, like you said, you're creating an empire. So are people usually surprised when they find out that you have Asperger's? Or, I mean, do you feel like sometimes people can tell or no?
I mean, it's difficult. So if you met me, you can tell with some people. I'm lucky. It's kind of funny, actually, because if you lived with me, you'd tell instantly, But if you met me after a couple of hours, you'd realize, because I have a really big issue making eye contact, and if and obviously I have real big sensory issues. I have a lot of social anxiety, and then I always have triggered meltdowns when I'm out in public. I can't go to cities, agoraphobia, those kind of things. So you notice those hallmarks. I'm sitting in my office right now talking to you, and I love doing piece to camera work. And when I first started doing this type of work, you could tell straight off the bat, because I had no training, but practice makes progress. And so now I have been learning how to talk to a camera, how to discuss things in interviews, because with my book, when I launched my book, before I got to the book stage, when I did all my Star Wars stuff, because I'm like my book's about Star Wars and things, I did a lot of press interviews, and I've been in like Time magazine, I've been on every television network in the world, and I was interviewed by Piers Morgan. So I've had a lot of training with media. So it's funny when people see me on camera, it's different to when they meet me in person. And it's I would say that it's for the things that I'm doing, it's hyper focusing. I'm super interested in the way things work, because social media is algorithmic changes, which is a mathematical problem versus solution scenario, and I love that. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love the changes in algorithmic changes. I love growth hacking and strategy. I love systems. I love creating systems. I love digesting data from things, analytical data. And so it wouldn't surprise you, you look at people like Bill Gates. Steve Jobs. These people are obviously on the spectrum too. Albert Einstein was on the spectrum. I actually have a degree in chemistry, so I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry, which I did whilst I was writing my book, actually. And that was really fun. I did that because, again, it's mathematics. Chemistry is just mathematics. So it's not shocking to think that somebody with Asperger's syndrome can do all those things. But if you'd asked me to I don't know, host a party for I don't know, women of a certain age to come and mingle and have a mixer, I mean, it would never happen. I could just, no way.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of guys would not be able to host a party for women to come and mingle. So definitely a different language there. That I don't think you're the only one. But I totally hear what you're saying. Yeah, a lot of what you described with loving algorithms and functionality and things. Yes, that's definitely a hallmark trait of Asperger's. But I mean, when did you first start to realize, or who did someone else realize for you that you were a little bit different?
Yeah, absolutely. So, straight off the bat, when I was a kid, young boy, I couldn't play with my brother and sister. I have one brother and one sister, but I couldn't play with them very well because I couldn't understand that type of play. I wouldn't go outside, so I had extreme anxiety of going anywhere because it was outside of my routine. I had huge difficulty in going to school because it was too overpowering. My parents were in a typical mainstream school, so of course my learning was behind a lot, my reading and writing, all those kind of skills. And my parents were obviously super concerned. They were like, what's going on? I had really bad trouble sleeping. I was hyperactive, but yet very closed in. And I had one friend, this kid who was dyslexic, who we used to make a lot of electronics and stuff. I was really into electronics when I was a kid, and Lego, so we used to do that. So my parents took me to different doctors. The teachers in school were obviously super concerned I wouldn't play outside at break times. And then we had a special we had a special agreement where I was allowed to stay indoors and play on computers that were terrible back in the 90s, but it was cool. It was the only thing we had, and I loved it. And so the teachers kind of knew, but they didn't know what it was. And you're going back to 93, 94, which is in Wales, in the United Kingdom, which is quite a rural part of the United Kingdom. There was no way a doctor or psychologist would ever understand what autism was, because it wasn't getting diagnosed until the mid 90s in America, let alone Europe. So yeah, my parents knew there was something wrong. We took to see all kinds of doctors and psychologists and stuff, and it was just an ongoing process. It was an uphill battle for many years. But I eventually got to my partner, who I live with now, and we have a son. So her mum is a mental health nurse, and her mum kind of spotted it. And then also a woman that was doing an access course, which I was doing to go into science, but she was doing it to go into something else, accounting, I think. Her son has Asperger's, and we're quite similar. So she was like, "Oh, do you have Asperger's?" And I had a lot of people ask me this question, so I didn't really know. So I didn't know anything about it. And then we went from there really and created the path to the diagnosis process. So that's how we did it. But I was 26 years old by the time I got the diagnosis.
Wow, that's a long time. That's a pretty long time.
It's a frustratingly long time. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So once you did get the diagnosis, what were some steps? Did you learn certain things that helped you function on a daily basis?
Yeah. So the first thing was because you got to think as well. 26 years old, I'd started having proper jobs, grown up jobs, and so I was in offices, but I couldn't. I was in one place, and then I got excessive depression, and I didn't know what was going on, and I couldn't go in, so I was on drugs and stuff, and then it was just really difficult. And then I went to another place, and I had a huge meltdown there because we were going to change the office around, and it wasn't good, and I was freaking out, and then so all of these things, but nobody could understand why. So after having the diagnosis, I was set up with a guy who was an ASD development worker, a key worker, a social worker, and he would visit me every week, or typically every week with the frequency, but I could ask for more. And his name was David Oliver. He was a really cool guy. So what he did is he took me to different Asperger's support groups, and we spoke to different people and learned from different people. And then he met with my bosses and work and explained to them, some reasonable adjustments. And then he also helped me when I was starting my university degree, helping me speak to the university disability student section, and then they set up additional requirements in the classes for me and stuff, and it was really like it was ridiculously helpful, and especially with like like at home, like dealing with like bills management and organization of life skills, like really bad at doing those things. Like, I can work my washing machine, but it took like 2 or 3 years to figure out how to do all those things and that functionality.
What
But
type of things? The
like washing machines,
oh,
like washing clothes, get organizing when to wash clothes,
oh,
how much to
interesting.
do, remembering that you need to like buy more washing stuff, and then I'm still learning. I still have loads of hurdles to overcome, but like it's just it was just having support from somebody to guide you in a social aspect, and that wasn't always dependent on my girlfriend, so to say to her, like, what to do. But it relieved a lot of tension as well. I think one of the main things was relieved a lot of tension, so people realized that I wasn't just being like stupid, because again, a lot, he was not stupid, why are you like wiping babies or whatever. So it was kind of nice to have a clinical reassurance. I was like, it was more of a condition rather than just a laziness or whatever.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing. So I want to go back to you mentioned something earlier that I thought was interesting. I wanted to ask you about. You said that once you did realize that you had Asperger's, someone came into your office and spoke to like your, I'm assuming your boss, your coworkers, and like how to talk to you and how to make things better for you. And then same thing with school. So what were those things? What are things that people should be watching out for in the workplace or in school to make life easier for people that have Asperger's?
Well, that's a loaded question, but I can put some simple examples down. So one was they worked out a new procedure where they'd email me the task list over and just be like, Dan, did you get the list? And I'm like, yeah, I got it. So I could then work through the task list through the internet, like through my email.
Mm.
So which was a really good one. Another one was so for school was you're in a lecture hall and you look at somebody giving you a lecture, and then they've got information on the screen, they're talking, and you're supposed to write stuff down. Like, just off the bat, if you're sensory sensitive, like your sensory processing disorder that comes with autism, there's no way I'm going to be able to write that down. I'm trying to process the light that's coming off the board and looking at those pictures moving on the actual, projector. Then I'm looking at the guy who's pointing at the pictures, telling me something else that relates to the pictures, and then I have to translate all of that down into some written format. Mix that with dyslexia, and you've got a catastrophe in your hands. So they arranged for a woman to be in my lectures with me to take those notes, which was fantastic. And when she wasn't available, I was allowed to record the lectures audibly and then listen back to those, which is absolutely fantastic.
Okay,
So
interesting.
they're two examples of how it worked. Another one in working environment was understanding that I needed to take like sometimes it was too overwhelming in an office, so I was allowed to take like 5 minutes to go outside, walk around. And I used to work on like a park, and it had like a lake and stuff there, and it was swans and stuff. So it was really cool. So I got to walk around this lake and chill out, and then go back. And I was allowed to have headphones in my ears to kind of dampen the sound around the office, because when I first joined, it was like a 6-person team, and then it went to like 200 people.
Mm. So the feeling of overwhelm and being overwhelmed, that feeling that comes up very often, is it like mostly because it's just too much stimuli happening? It's just like too much happening at the
Yeah,
same time. You just can't like,
it's
okay.
exactly what it is. It's kind of like say you let's give an example of how it feels. So like, say you're going to the store, all you need is bread. So you go to the grocery store, you walk in, and then you
Mhm.
walk in, you go and you go and you go in, and then you're looking for the bread, right? You're looking for the bread, you find the bread, put it in your basket, go to the till, you pay for your bread, and out you go. Great. Because you're focusing on the thing that you need to do, and that's all you can do, because that's what you can see. That's what you're there for, right? Your mind's occupied on that. An autistic person walks into the grocery store to buy bread, and they're like, wow, there's lights, there's a security guard, how many people are in here? Oh my god, what's that music? That smell is really annoying. This floor seems really hard today. Why is this floor hard? Okay, I've got to find the bread, but still this floor is hard. Now those lights are awful. There's too many people standing close to me. This guy's breath, that guy's humming. Why is that noise happening? And so you can see how it becomes, it's looking at every single thing in the area. You can't focus
Yeah.
on one thing, unless it's your peak interest.
Mm,
Like I
yeah.
can, and so, but it's because, and then it works on the contrary to that. So this is an example that happens in the home, right?
Hmm.
I'm reading about at the moment I'm building a traffic funnel for my course. You know, how to get people to get more information from me, more value. And so I'm reading about how funnels work. You know, I'm really studying it. I'm looking at this funnel thing, and my girlfriend's been talking to me for about 25 minutes, like Dan, 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 Dan. And I'm like, just, so I can't hear her because I'm too focused on this thing. Same with my kid, he's like, Daddy, Daddy, and I'm like looking at this. I'm reading, I've got a book in front of me, and I'm trying my best to read. And of course, reading is super difficult, so I'm like really focused on it. I just zone out. So it's funny because the opposite happens when you're in a more controlled environment. When I'm looking at something that I'm really into, I completely zone out, and I've become almost deaf to the situation.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. So it's just like basically how controlled the environment is. That's fascinating. I mean, I have to say that when you're talking about the grocery store one, I often feel the same way, except I concentrate on things that are different from you. Like instead, so what you said, it almost sounds like a superpower in the sense that it's like you have extremely keen senses and like you notice
Mm.
everything around you that other people, details that other people cannot notice, right? So in a sense, that's almost like reminds me of and think of, a lot of times in mental health, I think of it as like almost like superpowers or Marvel comic book characters or
I
something.
suppose,
Yeah,
I
but
guess, slightly annoying.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, no, I mean, for me, when I go into like a grocery store, it's like there's just so many choices. I know that's like a problem too for a lot of people.
Yeah, so that's a phenomenon. So that's the social psychology of marketing. So the marketers do that on
Yes.
purpose, right? So they do it, and it's funny. There's also a secondary reason they do that, and it's kind of like to keep people happy. It's really political. Is that they give you the illusion of choice, and they restrict certain choices. So you go, well, I've got 50 or 35 flavors of Baskin Robbins ice cream, right? But you've only got two political parties you can choose from. So they tell you they've got so much choice and
Interesting.
abundance, but you only have that, and that's how that works. And so a lot of it is pushed by these people who lobby from the top of the pyramid of government, so that they
Oh, how
lobby in people who
fascinating.
create social sciences. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It sounds a little bit conspiratorial, but it's not really a conspiracy. It's just it's optimizing, it's streamlining the way that you can create opportunity for the wealthiest people, because the wealthiest people can create opportunity, right? Because they have the
Right.
most power. Wealth comes power, and to keep that streamlined or optimize it, just like anything else, you optimize the content for the best outreach, and so they optimize everything to make sure that that system works in their favor. So that's how it works.
Hmm. I will never look at ice cream choices the same way again. So,
Sorry, everybody who have just like destroyed the
no, I think
shopping
it's
experience.
important to know this.
A book recently, or through listening to a book. I've listened to books, and one of the things was that to create, I think it was the 4 Hour Work Week. I don't know if you've come across that
Yes,
book.
uh-huh. I
Yeah,
have it.
and
I
so
have it. I
so
don't
in
think
it,
I ever finished it,
yeah.
but how is it? Is it good?
Oh, it's excellent. And he actually says in the book, he says, choices take up so much of your time, so outsource wherever you can. So you can do that. You can have literally, you can pay somebody like a virtual assistant, and like outsourcing is going to be the way that we optimize our productivity and time. And that's it. It's all about optimizing everything we do in life to make it more streamlined, because
Absolutely.
your life is, yeah. And, and I take it from it's a line from Fight Club, which is my favorite movie, where he says your life is ending every second of every minute of every day. And so you have to choose wisely, and you have to make
Hmm.
sure that time counts.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I've read the 80/20 principle. Have you read that one? That's a good one.
Yeah, the 80/20 principle, it actually
Hmm.
applies to every single thing. 80/20
Hmm.
principle applies to everything. It's ridiculous. Like it applies to everything, especially marketing. I noticed in marketing and optimizing content, 80/20 is like it's everything. Like 20% is sales, 80% is value. It's like it's crazy.
I'm curious,
And I
how
love
do
it.
you think it would apply to like something you're doing in a daily, day-to-day basis?
I think it applies to things like, spend 80% of your time productive. Obviously, 20% of the time needs to be relaxation and self-care. I think that's how they would run that, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people run at like 90 to 100% kind of
Hmm.
productivity. I know I do. I sometimes forget to just do other stuff because I'm just working all the time. Like I want to I'm obsessed with it. When your life's work is the thing you enjoy the most and you're obsessed
Hmm.
about, it's hard to disconnect from that for a bit and just relax. I find it hard anyway.
Yeah, I do love the 80/20 principle and the fact that it states that 20% of your efforts it gives you 80% of your results. So I try to keep that in mind where it's like, okay, where can I
100%
put, yeah,
true.
for everything that I'm doing. And that way I am able to do so much, you know. I think that some people don't quite realize that. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
you can never do it because you're doing more than one thing or multiple things. But it's like, no, actually I try to
it
optimize
makes it
exactly like
better.
you said.
Yeah,
Yeah, optimize every single thing that you're doing. You know, how can you efficiency, right?
it is. It's working smarter, not harder. And there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with working hard. I'm just saying that, like, work hard, but like work smart as well. And
Yeah.
I think,
Well, some people
it's
love
funny.
hard work too. So if that's what they
They do,
enjoy, they take pride in that, then awesome,
of
right?
course.
Yeah.
I think I always remember something that my ghostwriter. I had a ghostwriter help me write my book. Obviously, being super dyslexic, there's no way I was going to be able to write a book physically. So I had a ghostwriter, and she said to me, "God, how do you do so many things?" She's like, she goes, "Why? I don't know why I even asked that question because she's remembers this old saying that says, if you want something done properly, ask a busy person because a busy person always has the ability to do it because they're obviously able to do all these things. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing all those things at once, right?" And I love it. Like I was saying to I, well, recently I've been reading two books at once because I'm trying to improve my reading because practice makes progress. But I'm reading two books at once, which is amazing, and I love it. I feel like it like supercharges my brain. But I got like this content overload because I was doing so much. So I was creating content because right now I'm in the middle of batch filming for the next year. So I'm
Mhm.
filming 120 videos. I send it to my editor. He edits them down, and then we do all the uploads and all the other bits and pieces. And it's so funny. So I kind of had this really weird like mental health kind of problem that I came across where I was reading two books at once, and I was also listening to podcasts while brushing my teeth and just doing random stuff. And then when I was out running, I was listening to podcasts and books. And I was coming home and I was working, and then I spend a couple of hours in the evening with my family, like my girlfriend and my baby. And then when he goes to bed, I come down, I do some work, and then I go upstairs and chill. But I came downstairs from hanging out with him to come to the office because the office is in the down floor of our house. And I was like, whoa, like it just kind of hit me as if like I'd just been like hit by like a bus or something. And I was like, whoa, because my
Hmm.
brain was so heavy, full of stuff. Because I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
whoa, because I was just doing so many things. I was recording
Yeah.
10 videos
Mm-hmm.
in, I record, I record 10 videos in 2 days. And
Mm-hmm.
then, well, actually, I mean, I could record, like, I was trying to record 100 videos in 2 weeks, but I'm recording 10 videos in 2 days. And then I was reading two books at once and listening to podcasts whilst trying to
Yep.
run my business, and so it was flipping crazy. But I,
But
I
it's
love, I
exciting
love,
though, right?
yeah, it is. I love all that stuff. I just need to
Yeah.
remember, like, sometimes maybe reading
You
two books and
need
listening
to
to
like chill
podcasts in
out.
every square minute isn't good. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, we all need to give our brains that break because we need to recharge like a battery. Our brains are like batteries. We need to like recharge it, you know. It's we yeah, I mean, if it helps the way that I see it, if it helps us function better, if we give ourselves a recharge, right, and the optimal functionality, the whole thing that we've been talking about, then that's reason enough to do it, right? If it's going to make, again, and that's also probably with the 80/20 for the 4 Hour Work Week, all those, success guru type books. I think the bottom line is they always preach quality over quantity. How much are like how productive are you being with the amount of effort that you're putting in versus just how much time are you spending doing it, right? So
yeah, of
and
course.
that's very important to keep in mind. But I think it's amazing. I mean, you struggle with like Asperger's and you're able to do all of this. Like how are you able to do it? Like what has been optimal for you?
Yeah, I wasn't. I was terrible at doing all this stuff before, but there's two things in my life that changed it. And honestly, it was the iPhone and the iPad. Like without those two things, like
Really?
I honestly now, if I didn't have an iPhone and an iPad, I would just come to a grinding halt because I schedule everything in my life, how I eat, when I wake up, when I talk to people, when I go to pick up my medication from the pharmacy, everything is because I've scheduled it. As soon as it comes in, I put it on my phone. But like I literally use these things to death. These are tools that like, yeah, I just use them every single like everything. Like I,
Do you
honestly,
do you
I
have an
just love it.
iWatch? Because I got an
Yes, I did.
iWatch. Okay, I never
Apple Watch it.
use it. I don't know what to use it for.
Oh,
The only thing I use it for is
dude.
like downloading music and listening to it. I used to have a phone line and then I had to cancel that because I was just not using it. I'm like, why do I even
Mm.
have this watch?
Well, I think like, it's maybe not for everybody. Maybe because I bought it primarily because I love running, and running is a good way for me to. I remember Will Smith
That's the
said
only
two
time
things.
I use it, though.
Yeah, that's it. And then I started using it, and then it came more and more. But this is good for you though. Let's remember that Will Smith said that successful people run and read. So if you
Hmm.
don't do any of those things, then it's going to be really
Do
funny.
both.
Yeah, I know, same here. And I always kind of get shocked when people say they don't read books. I'm like, what? Like I'm dyslexic, bro, and I still read like it's crazy. Actually, I saw a video recently on YouTube where a guy read one book a week for 4 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
like it was really interesting. He said that it just blew his mind because at the end of the 4 year period of reading a book a week, he he was like he was just so he saw everything in a different way. So when he sat in classes, he was thinking about things in a different way because he was relating to data. And I said there's something about books that you can only get certain data from books that you can't get anywhere else, and that's why I find them fascinating.
So people like us, basically, that are just fascinated by everything. I mean, would you? Because I get a lot of slack for this. Actually, so many people meet me and they're like, "How can you be doing all this or interested in all this?" And you can't believe the amount of people that tell me like that I'm doing something wrong, or that I shouldn't be, that I should only be focused on like one thing or one or two things. Happens all the time. They're constantly saying this. They're like, "Oh, if you want to be successful in something, you should just focus on just this one thing." And I'm like, but that's not how my brain works. It's just not how I work. And I know a lot of creative people, it's just almost impossible, because once creativity comes out, it's like it's like a whole world
You have
of
to run
creative
with it, right?
juices.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you have to say to that? I'm very curious, your thoughts.
I,
Yeah.
do you know both ourselves and the people who would say otherwise are both right in the fact that we can we can we can be interested in all things and be successful, but when you want to double down on something, that's exactly what you do. So with my YouTube channel, until I decided that I would go full pelt on just dedicating like 2 months to algorithm changes in YouTube and figuring out optimization of those channels, it wasn't until I did that my channel kind of like had exponential growth. And so then I go, okay, I've learned that now. I can carry on that exponential. It's like spinning plates, isn't it? You know, and you can spin that plate, and keep going to spin another plate, and then you get another plate going with something else. And so there's nothing wrong with learning all things, but when you want to streamline one thing, just put all of that like effort onto one thing and then move on to the next thing. It's just how you do it, because I don't think people see that, because you know what I mean. If you wanted to like exactly what I'm talking about. Like if you were working on Facebook growth this month, and then you say, okay, once we hit like I don't know 100K on Facebook, then we're going to move on to Instagram, right? We're going to try and get 500K on Instagram, and so you're still doing all those things. You're still running everything because you're already learning about Pinterest, which is what you got lined up, which is like 3 jobs down the line, right?
Mhm.
So I think that people are right in what they perceive saying, but I think the problem is they don't see it from your or my point of view, where we're saying, okay, I can still double down and still learn all this other stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I've got
I
it.
think I also think that, it just depends on how, like, the differences in people's brains and what they prefer. Because I definitely know people, like, for example, my father, he just does what he does. Although when you think about it, he has also branched into like a bunch of different sectors within his specialty. However,
All
he's
right,
like
okay.
an expert in his field. Like that's just what he does. He's like very laser focused in that sense, and it's always worked for him. And I know a lot of successful people where it has really worked for them, and it makes sense because obviously if you spend so much time and energy on one thing, it's gonna grow, which is great.
Of
That's a
course.
great part of entrepreneurship. However, one thing that I always tell, especially with my clients, I always tell them like when they struggle with this, I'm like, find a way to try to make things mesh together. Like if however you can, like the best way to make things like all somehow mesh together, so that one effort on one thing, it's like almost like an
Can
umbrella,
help the
right?
other stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So try, almost like Breaking Taboo is built like a umbrella of mental health, and then suicide prevention is the stem. That is the same exact way that I see, entrepreneurship. And when you have a lot of different interests, is like, try to
Mhm.
figure out how to make it all bleed into that stem. But if you can't, if some things can't, that's okay too, because here's the other side of it. Remember the whole recharging the batteries part that we were talking about, right, with our brains?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes for me, other creative interests are what recharges my battery. I mean, that to me,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, sitting down, learning about something else, or writing my poetry, or working on some music or whatever. Those are the things that recharge and refuel my battery, so that I can come back to whatever it is I'm working on, like 100% even more. But why not make those things productive also? You know? So,
You know, it's funny you should say that because like I did a video on like so there's this thing where people say like, oh, you need to, you know, Dan, you need to relax, you need to chill out. I'm like, yeah, but my relaxing and chilling out is you know, because I'm quite hyperactive and I speak really fast. My relaxing and chilling out is like learning stuff. So like I start watching documentaries on like, you know, crazy things just to learn. I have to constantly learn things. I feel like I'm always needing to learn and educate myself. So
I love that.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and so and then I realized that it got to a point where I'm like, well, that is my relaxation time. But then I figured that what people may think is that they may think, well, if you're sitting in front of a screen all the time, maybe it's not really good for your, you know, for your vision and your brain needs a bit of a rest. So I thought, well, how would I do that? So the thing that I kind of like the hack that I've started to use is that actually getting a physical book and then going and sit down somewhere away from like your iPhone and iPad and just reading a book for a bit because you're still digesting information, but you're not having your brain exposed to flickering of screens and all that kind of stuff, you know, or like whatever light it is. So it's really interesting you should say that, and I think it's a really cool thing to know that you know your relaxation is education, so or whatever or research. You know, I think that's a cool thing to remember.
Yeah, and then of course, there are the times where you do absolutely nothing, and that's okay too, or like meditate, or
Yeah,
train your brain to do nothing. But you actually touched on something. You talk about reading a lot, and you also mentioned that you have ADHD.
yeah.
I know for a lot of people with ADHD, it's extremely difficult to sit down and read. So how do you? I mean, are you on medication? Also, yeah, are you on medication for all this, or?
So until, it wasn't until I started my medication treatment that I was able to sit down and read a book. You're absolutely right. And
Oh,
so there's
okay.
this conflict as well between having Asperger syndrome and ADHD. Like I want to focus and really like find precision on something like reading, but then having ADHD, I'm just like, you know, flying all over the place and like I can't stick to one topic. I want to go to something else. And then so it was a conflict inside my brain constantly. So I'm on medication now that definitely calms me down. And since doing that, I've been able to sit down and really focus on stuff, which is like really cool. Like I'm so thankful. And I never took medication before this, but January of this year, I was like, no, no, no. So I went to see my doctor, and he was like, okay, we can do this, like as a psychiatrist. And
Oh,
then we did
okay.
that, and it was good.
Wait,
And
you said that you never took medication before until this year?
no, that's right. When I was diagnosed, obviously, and before that, well, I'd taken depression medication when I hit depression. Obviously, I had to. But then when I was diagnosed, I was offered medication, and and I was like, no, I was always scared of taking medication, feeling like it would make me less of who I am. So uh, I kind of like not refused, but just didn't. I said, well, when I'm ready, I'll. I know, and I obviously when I felt like I was ready, I thought I could try it. You know, why not? And so I
So
feel
how,
really good from that.
yeah, how does it feel? Have you noticed a difference?
Well, at first it made me really, really tired and like drowsy, but then now it's in my system properly and I'm going for it. My body's adapted to it. I feel really good. I feel like in control of myself. I feel like that when I get really stressed out, like it used to hit my head a lot, and it was like it's an impulse. So that was one of the biggest issues I have. So like especially meltdowns, and I'm like, I did hit my head, and it was something I despised because um I didn't want to do it, but it just happened. But now since taking the medication, I've only done it once, and so like it used to happen like weekly, and now I've done it like once since January. So it's like, whoa. So medication is really, really calming me down. So it just makes me feel more grounded, I guess, more like
Oh, okay.
attached to reality. I guess that's the way to do it.
Okay, interesting. And you don't, do you feel like any part of your personality has been compromised because of medication? Because a lot of people are afraid of that.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think we are who we are. I don't think medication can change that. And after seeing it now, and obviously you could look at my videos. It's funny actually. A lot of my fans have said like in my videos like, "Whoa, are you taking medication or something?" Because I noticed that you're a lot more calmer in videos and you're talking a lot slower. And I was
Oh,
like, "Yeah, I
interesting.
am actually." So it's actually helped in a lot of ways. But yeah, it has definitely not taken anything away. It's made my sleeping difficult because it interacts with the sleeping. I used to take 5-HTP to sleep, which was
Mm,
really good stuff.
I took that for a
But
little bit, yeah.
yeah, so taking the 5-HTP, I felt I had to take it for a couple of weeks before it worked, and then after taking it for a while, it worked really well. But then the new medication I'm on would interact with that same part of my brain, so I couldn't take the 5-HTP anymore. So it kind of
Mm.
it's interrupted the way that I sleep, but it's okay.
So,
Because obviously
what medication are you on?
I'm taking duloxetine. So I
Okay.
don't know what it is, and it might have a different name in America.
Is it for Asperger's or ADHD or both?
Well, it's given it's given to people with autism spectrum disorder sometimes because it's like it's an antidepressant as well. So it kind of like because so people with autism have like mood dips like this, like roller coaster mood dips. So just it's to level out those mood dips, which then in turn helps with focus, and then it helps you kind of relax more because obviously it's a little bit of a an antidepressant, so it kind of like makes you relax a bit more. So and feel happier, so that's what the medication is. I don't know what it is. I think duloxetine is the name of it in America as well, but I'm not entirely sure. There's a bunch of different ones, but the duloxetine was the one that we wanted to try first and see how we got on with it. And so far, so good. It may change in the future, but at the moment, I feel like duloxetine's working really well, and so
Okay.
yeah, we're going with that.
So you're
But
only
I've,
on
I've read a
one.
few studies. Yeah, just on the one that. Well, yeah, I'm on that one. I do have benzodiazepam for traveling because I get extreme social anxiety when I'm traveling,
Mm-hmm.
like crazy social anxiety when traveling. So
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You mentioned before that, and I know this is very common with people with Asperger's, but you have trouble making eye contact, right? So
yeah.
I've always been curious, like if I was to ask why, or what does it feel like, or what's the like trouble there? Like, how would you explain it?
It's kind of a really uncomfortable feeling. It's almost like I don't know. There's a few ways I could explain it. But I don't know which ones are PC enough, but it's kind of like someone
It's
reaching into your
okay.
soul and touch. But it's like, okay, so imagine you've just met somebody and you both have to strip naked and get really close to each other and touch your noses. You'd be like, this is really uncomfortable because that's something that you don't get. You only get that intimate with somebody if you're really, you know them through and through, and you're with them, and they. So it's kind of like that when you look somebody in the eye. It's like, whoa, like really, like it's so intense. It's like that's what
Mm-hmm.
it feels like. He feels like you're completely naked, so there's this person looking into them deeply. It's like, what the. So I just can't do it. It makes you feel really like, I don't know. It's so hard. It's hard to do. It's a
Ah, I
difficult thing,
see.
and maintaining eye contact is so difficult to do.
I see. So it's just like a really intense.
Yeah,
I
connection, I guess.
think I kind of know what you mean because sometimes, like, I can think of a few situations where I've been like really nervous, for something, and then and I totally exactly know what you mean because when there's been times where I've made eye contact and it's like whoa, and it almost feels like something's like hitting you, and it
Yeah,
makes me super on edge and alert, and it's like I can't really think of anything else, but luckily for me, that doesn't happen like all the time. It's like those rare occasions that I can think about where it's happened. So last question for you before we
okay.
wrap things up.
Yeah.
For people out there who are experiencing Asperger's or autism, who may be listening, what are some words of advice that you can tell them? What are some tools that have helped you?
Okay, so if you are, if you're on the spectrum, I guess, my best advice would be to watch all my videos. No, it would be to rely on a digital assistant, rely on like a smartphone or a tablet, because those things are going to be able to just improve your life so much. Because you got to think about, it can navigate you through, cities, it can navigate you through towns. It can also order your menus for you as well. So you can get dictation software where you can write down a message and press play, and it'll speak for you. So there's so many avenues to take if you have the right smartphone or smart device. So that's one of the go-to kind of ones. Also, the other one is don't be so hard on yourself. Like I was always hard on myself, thinking that there was something wrong with me, like I was an idiot and I was doing things wrong. You're never doing things wrong. People are just who they are. And there's something that's empowering about being different, and that's that should be your motivation to keep going. And the last thing I'll say is that I believe in you. Whatever you want to do it, because nobody tells you that enough. Nobody tells you like, I can believe in you, you can do it, but I believe in you. So yeah, whoever you are, Dan believes in you, and I know you can do it. There you go. That might be the advice that you need today.
Awesome. Yeah, and we here at Breaking Taboo obviously are huge supporters of people with all sorts of mental health conditions and those without. But I always say all of us, we are all going through some type of mental health something, because mental health is really, it's just that, it's health, it's like physical health. It's, we need to maintain it, be conscious of it, and constantly are figuring out new ways for us as individuals to best handle our own mental health and make us feel and be as productive or happy or whatever it is that we are seeking as possible. And the power of technology, I believe that's what you're saying, right, Dan? The power of
Absolutely.
technology helps
Yeah,
with Asperger's. Interesting.
100%. Like, yeah, it's improved my life. Like, I don't know, it's like tenfold.
Love it, love it. Yeah, I mean, I do at least follow my calendars. I do like I'm a huge stickler for my calendar. Every single thing I do has to go in my calendar or else like I will forget. And that's a big, big tool too. But now I will look into Siri, Siri
No,
reminders, using it for anything but to tell me the weather and like a couple news highlights.
check it out. Take my
Oh
medication.
my
I don't know if you can see
gosh,
that.
that's Siri,
So
right?
it's just
Yes,
come
I
up right
can.
now. Yeah.
That's
So see?
great.
Yeah, I have to take my med. I have to go now because I have to take my medication. But yeah,
I will let you go so you can take your medication and get about your day. But this
no,
has
it's a
been,
good thing.
yeah, this has been really wonderful. I really
Sure.
enjoyed chatting with you. I'm amazed that we went through such a
Thank
wide array of topics, and I love it. Everything is fascinating.
you.
I love people like you who are just fascinated
Yeah.
by all sorts of random things and actually like chooses to learn about them. So I've learned a lot today, actually.
Yeah.
Um, and you've been quite
Me
the
too.
spokesperson for Apple and Alexa. They should pay you.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd love to work with Apple. Oh man, so funny.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay,
thank you so much for
Daniel.
having me
Yeah,
on as
thank
well.
you. Have a great day.
All right, and you take
Bye.
care.